Welcome back to this very special episode of the Idle Talk podcast. And this week we are taking a look at the first episode of season 46. Heavy spoiler warning right now for this season premiere of season 46 of Survivor. Warning right now, if you have not seen the first episode of season 46, go ahead and pause this. Go watch it right now. It's on Paramount Plus. You can watch it, and then you can come back and listen to our opinions. We're going to give you a little countdown. You can go pause it. 3, 2, 1. All right, Jacob, what's going on with Jelinsky? Well, what do you think about this boy right here? We're going to start right now with Jelinsky. We're going to talk about him, and then we can talk about the rest of the episode. But I think we just need to go ahead and just get it all out there, because that's what we're both thinking. That's what everybody's thinking. That's what everybody's talking about. We talked about him already quite a bit in our draft, and he wasn't our last pick, but we almost made him the last pick. He was second to last pick.
Shout out to Tiffany being my last pick and fighting an idol first episode.
Way to go,
Absolutely
Tiffany.
Massive.
So,
yeah, huge props to Tiffany.
Proved us wrong,
yeah.
And I like her a lot. I like Tiffany a lot. She's doing a great job.
I also really like Tiffany, and I think that was the fun thing of our draft, was seeing who was going to defy our expectations, and then who was going to potentially fumble, picking someone who we thought was going to be really good, and then they get voted out really fast. So I think that's a really fun aspect of our draft. But on the subject of Jelinsky, honestly, he's iconic. You can't say he's not iconic, and that he didn't have probably one of the most memorable first boots ever. I've seen how many seasons? Close to 15, upwards of 20 seasons. I think I've seen around 15, and I can't remember a single person that was voted out first. I don't think I can remember anyone who was voted out first.
Yeah, I can't even remember right now off the top of my head who was voted out first last season.
Yeah, I
right now I can't even tell you. No clue.
I'd have to sit there and think on it.
I would actually have to go look at the pictures, and then I could tell you. And the only reason I know who was voted out first the season before was because they weren't even voted out first. I think it was just Bruce went home.
Yeah, he just left.
I don't even know who was voted out first that season. So I don't know.
I honestly think I will remember him.
Yeah,
long term.
And actually, yes.
Know that he was the first boot. It might help that we're actively talking about him for an extended period of time.
Probably.
To kind of solidify it in our brains. But you can't. I can't think of a person who had a more iconic first episode boot. I mean,
he had 7 confessionals. He had so much screen time, and he called himself a Survivor legend, and he meant He meant it in a different way than it was intended, but he is a Survivor legend. I think we can say that.
He is a Survivor legend. It might not be the legend status that he wants, but he is a legend.
Absolutely. I think he is. And so we'll dive into, maybe let's kind of recap the episode, kind of hit it kind of beat by beat here really quickly, and we can kind of give our commentary on all the significant things that happen, the significant characters. We didn't really take notes on the episode. We were just kind of watching it and experiencing it. We each, obviously, if you haven't listened to our episode where we kind of gave our pre-season impressions and our pre-season draft, you don't have to go back and listen to that. You can. But we each have a team where we drafted half of the Survivor players each. So we're kind of rooting for half of the players each, just based kind of on our own teams. But we're going to have our own favorites too. And there's going to be overlap. Even before the season, Tevin was one of those ones that I was just I know he's going to be one of my favorites. And so even though I didn't draft him, I drafted Venus over Tevin, I knew Tevin's going to, I'm just going to root for Tevin. And so regardless of what happens, I'm going to be rooting for the Andy Griffiths alliance. I'm just going to be. Even though they're both on your team, if they made it to the final 2, I don't care if they win. I am going to be thrilled. That's going to be so legendary, and I'm going to be very happy. So I'm pretty stoked for this season. The cast seems like a lot of fun. There's a couple of people that seem not like that I'm not in love with yet, but it's only one episode. But for the most part, it seems like a really fun cast. The tribes seem pretty even, except for Yanu seems to be kind of in like a bad spot, but maybe they can turn that ship around. We will see. But it seems like an interesting season, and it was a very good first episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I also think, I know the season itself had been filmed before season 45 came out, but the first episode might not have been entirely being edited or fully finished with post-production. But I think the first episode is a huge step up from the first episode that we got in season 45, because I just remember after we both watched the first episode of 45, we were like, man, this season's about to suck. And that was kind of the general consensus of the kind of just the Survivor fan base, was we were really not vibing with the first episode of 45. A lot of the cast we just didn't really enjoy. There were a lot of like really abrasive personalities that people just didn't vibe with.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were really just like, man, this is going to be a flop season. And we were proved wrong, and it turned out to be a really enjoyable season. But I think this season is really starting out on a high note, and I really, really enjoyed the first episode. And I think it also plays a part that the first episode was 2 hours, so we got to see a lot more of just the cast and who they are and the beach life and seeing them set up their camps. And so I really, really enjoyed the 2-hour premiere. I wish that they would continue to do 2-hour episodes permanently, because I think there's a lot that you get to see. But I think that if anything, they should keep the 2-hour premiere a standard. I think that was a really smart decision.
Yeah, and we get another one of those next week too. So that'll be nice for them to at least give us the 2-hour premiere, the 2-hour next week, and then they usually do the double episode at the end as well, right? The final episode. So that should mean we're getting basically 3 extended episodes this season, which that adds up to a lot of extra content, which is exciting. And then the cast also seems really solid. So I'm pretty optimistic about this season. Last season, it turned around. It started out pretty rough and then turned around and ended up being really solid. I kind of think after now being kind of distanced from last season, I think that it is going to kind of end up in, the history of Survivor kind of falling into obscurity and being just kind of it's just going to kind of be lost like the rest of this sort of generation. This generation is starting to actually, I've seen it, the term being thrown around, it being called the copy and paste generation, is where they all kind of start to feel the same. I do think 44 to me stands out the most because of the Tika 3. It really makes that specific season memorable. I don't know how memorable anyone else in that season is, but the Tika 3 specifically make that one stand out to me. But I'm really hoping that this season, because the cast so far seems so strong, that maybe 46 can elevate itself above the rest of this new generation of Survivor, this, copy and paste generation, and maybe we can, have something that's going to propel future seasons of Survivor forward in an interesting and unique way. So with that being said, let's start moving on and into the episode. Episode starts. We're introduced to the 3 tribes. They have their first challenge. And as expected, Nami, the orange tribe, like we predicted, they were our preseason pick for the strongest tribe. And we kind of expected them to run the table and win the majority of the challenges leading into the merge. We just kind of expected them to go in with the majority into the merge or into pre-merge swap if that were to happen this season. And so Nami wins the first challenge, gets their tribe supplies. And so maybe we should talk before we go into the Savvy versus Sweat, just first impressions based on that challenge and that performance. Did anything stand out to you from that very first challenge, just seeing the 3 tribes there compete in that first sort of physical challenge with the little course and the mud and all of that there?
Yeah, I to no surprise, Nami won. We both predicted that they were going to be the strongest tribe, so I was not surprised at that fact. I personally thought that the green tribe, who is that, Siga? Mm-hmm. I personally thought that the Siga tribe was going to be the weakest of the 3, so it was a little bit surprising to me that Yanu turned out to be the weakest tribe. So I think that was the most surprising thing to happen, in my opinion, of the first impression and the first challenge.
Yeah, I think, we just didn't foresee Jess being hit with the brain fog thing in just such a extreme way, where she was going to be just a non-contributor to her tribe to such an extreme degree, where it's not as big of a deal in this very first challenge, but becomes a much bigger deal in the later the second challenge for tribal. What is? Oh my gosh! What it's I've got brain fog now. What's the name of the challenge?
Like the beginning challenge?
No, the second challenge. It's not for reward.
The one with the gecko? The immunity challenge?
Immunity, yeah. I had brain fog. Yes, the immunity challenge. That one. So she wasn't as helpful in that challenge. And then we also didn't foresee Jelinsky being a big time quitter. So we thought that Jess and Jelinsky were going to be, big physical people. Like, they were going to be helpful. Like, and that tribe was going to be a physical tribe, because we were looking at them and it was like, Jess, she's a cyclist. We thought she was going to be very helpful physically, and she seemed very smart. So we didn't foresee, you can't anticipate brain fog. So we thought she's going to be good in challenges. And Jelinsky, we were like, okay, he seems cocky and arrogant, but he's going to be able to do physical challenges. And, we thought they were going to be a competitive tribe. So it just seemed obvious that Siga was going to be the weakest of the 3. And it just, you can't ever take stuff at face value in Survivor. And that's what makes it an interesting show. And so, that's fun. So we were wrong, and that makes things more interesting. If you could predict Survivor, it wouldn't be worth watching. So Yanu comes in dead last. So Siga gets to choose between Savvy and Sweat. They choose Savvy, and that sticks Yanu with Sweat. During the Savvy challenge, Siga, it is Charlie and Ben. 2 very different personalities.
I expected Charlie to step up for the Savvy challenge. I was very surprised. 1, that Ben stepped up, and 2, that his tribe let him do it. I personally, if I was on that tribe and I was in replacement of someone else and Charlie had stepped up, I would have been like, yeah, no, sorry, Ben, I'm doing this. Granted, looking at that challenge, I don't think I would have been successful. That was a pretty hard Savvy challenge, the way that it worked out. So honestly, not surprised that Ben and Charlie didn't get it, because that was a pretty hard Savvy challenge. Kind of on the general broad subject of Sweat versus Savvy, how do you really feel about it? I personally don't really like it.
I don't see the point, because I don't think they're achievable. I don't understand what the reason for doing it is if you're not supposed to be able to get it done. Because the Savvy one, I don't know how you're supposed to get that. I really don't think that was. I just really don't know how you were supposed to get that challenge. And I also, now I do not agree, and so we'll get to this I guess we can get to it right now. While we're on the flip side of Savvy, for Sweat, they had to basically take pails of water that had holes in them and strut them across a beach and fill up these massive jugs, 2 massive jugs, fill them completely with water in 4 hours before the sand timer ran out. And it was just like, it seems totally impossible. And I guess it is technically possible, but it's something that 2 people on their first day out there, I really have a hard time seeing how that's possible, and if it really is worth it for them to do that, to have, what do they actually get? They get their hat, they get their machete.
Yeah, they get their machete, and they get a pot.
And a pot. How many days early? 2 days early?
Yeah, a day or two, because they end up getting the machete and the pot after the first immunity challenge.
Yeah, anyways. They get them regardless. So what?
And the thing is,
what's the point?
They also don't have flint, because you don't get flint until you win your first immunity challenge. So unless you have someone on your tribe who can make fire without flint, which is not common, most people cannot make fire without flint. You're not going to be cooking anything in the pot anyways. It's basically useless. The machete is the only useful thing, because it would help you crack coconuts and to get coconut water and coconut meat and hack down some limbs. Yeah. But you can make it a day without those supplies until you do the challenge, instead of wasting so much energy on the sweat one. I think the savvy task is worth attempting. There's no point in giving up the savvy task, because you're not really exerting energy. You're not wasting energy. You're just wasting time. But yeah, the sweat challenge seemed just pretty
ridiculous.
It seemed basically impossible.
And it's like you're wasting usually your 2 strongest tribe members. You're burning all of their strength, and you're burning all their energy on their first day, where they have the most energy, 2 days before one of your most important challenges of the whole season. And to do that. And that's one of those things where, like, I almost agree with Jelinsky a little bit about quitting. Like, I don't think you should quit. Like, I think you should still try and give your all. Like, you don't quit on Survivor. And I see what he's saying, because you want to go into the next challenge full strength. I think you should go through and do it. I think, I don't think you quit. You need to go through and do it. But so it's more of just a flaw in Survivor. But it's just one of those things where it's kind of just a stupid, dumb predicament. If he was that worried about being weak in the challenge, he shouldn't have volunteered himself. I think you only volunteer yourself for that challenge if you know, like Q, I think could have been recovered to full strength in 2 days to be ready for that challenge. Because, I mean, he's a big dude. He used to play football. He would have been ready. He would have been fine. But it just seems like the kind of thing that I think it just cripples you so much that it is an extreme disadvantage on you, and for Nami seems like just a massive advantage. So it doesn't surprise me at all that they won the immunity challenge, because being able to handicap, like, and it doesn't surprise me at all that Yanu lost the immunity challenge and they were the ones that got sweat. I think if Yanu got savvy, I think Siga, I think there's a really good chance that Siga would have been the one who went to tribal council. I don't know if that's a correlation or not, but it almost feels like it is. It just almost does, because if you're if you're burning out 2 of your tribe mates on a sweat task, even if they only complete half of it, that seems like a lot to be doing on your first day out there. You know what I'm saying? Like that seems rough. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the sweat versus savvy tasks. I think it seems just like they're trying to fill up the episode with stuff. And so I'm not a fan. I'm also not a fan of Jelinsky throwing the sand timer. I think that was incredible.
Yeah, it was not even, it was stupid, but honestly just kind of rude to production to then, because someone has to clean that up. You know,
there's glass.
You're not going to be
there's glass all over that sand now, bro. Like,
yeah, there's going to be glass in that sand for.
Yeah, and like, so granted, like, yes, glass is made of sand, but come on, man, like you can't do that. What's really funny is it reminded me so much of Drew throwing the pot lid from last season. It's just like this tall, lanky, scrawny dude wearing glasses throwing this projectile, but he's not really throwing it that far because he can't really throw, and he's just kind of yeets it out of frustration. It just reminded me of that moment so much, and they made it this all cinematic sort of thing. Yeah, he, out of frustration, he threw it. They gave up because, and in his reasoning for giving up is what's really golden, and what I really love is that the task said that they had several hours to complete it, and he's looking at the timer, that they have several hours, and then it also says that they have 4 hours. And last time Jelinsky checked, several equals 7, not 4. And that's got to take the cake on just perhaps maybe the dumbest thing ever said on Survivor.
It's up there.
I can't think of
up there.
I can't think of something dumber I've heard on Survivor. And I'm sure there's maybe a compilation of dumb things said on Survivor out there, and this is going to enter that list. The reactions at the challenge.
Yeah. The pictures of the other tribes when he, like, the other
amazing
castaways' faces when he says
Amazing.
that. So funny.
Tevin,
His reasoning.
Tevin's face, so funny. So funny.
And just his reasoning being that several contains 7 because they both have SEVE in them. It's just like it's honestly like mind numbing. It's I don't want to rail into the guy too hard, but come on. Like come on.
Yeah, it was a rough episode for old Jelinsky. Let's say that. Anyways, let's keep on going. All right. So that was Savvy versus Sweat. Neither tribe completed their Savvy versus Sweat, and so they did not get their supplies. And then we move along through the episode, and honestly, we just get to meet the tribes. And so I think probably what I think is probably worth doing is just taking probably most of the rest of this time to kind of just talk about the tribe compositions and kind of who we like, maybe who we don't like, kind of what we're feeling about each of the tribes. And then that's where we can kind of then pull out to the Maria, Tevin, Jelinsky adventure. And then from there, probably go to tribal. And I think that'll kind of wrap us all up here nice and succinctly. So we've already talked a good bit about Yanu. Is there anything else that you want to say about the Yanu tribe? So Jelinsky, we've already talked a lot about Jelinsky. He's the first boot. Not going to see anything else from him this season. So I don't know if there's much more we want or need to say about him. Obviously, Jess was one that you drafted quite high. She was your second pick from the Yanu tribe. So how are you feeling about Jess? She's obviously suffering from brain fog and was the other one on the chopping block with this episode. How are you feeling about the Yanu tribe at this moment? Is there anyone else there? What are your thoughts on Yanu before we move to the other two?
I still like Jess. I don't have anything against her. I just think it's kind of unfortunate that she is just really struggling mentally. No one expects to come out on Survivor and that be your struggle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of unfortunate to see that happen to a player. I wouldn't want to see that happen to anyone. Obviously,
yeah,
I want Jess to do well because she's on my team.
Yeah.
But you really don't want anyone to have kind of a bad Survivor experience like that. So it's just a little unfortunate. So I'm really rooting for her. I hope she's able to turn it around, and I hope that if she goes home, it's not for those reasons. I hope that if she goes home, it's because it's like legit reasons and not just because of her being mentally incapable. So that's kind of my hope moving forward. But I think the star of the show for you on the Yanu tribe is good old Kenzie.
Yeah. My first pick. Yeah.
I sent Peyton a tweet earlier that was someone saying, I don't know why, but I'm rooting in her downfall, and Peyton didn't like that.
I didn't like it. Yeah, Kinsey was out of all the videos that I saw of like all the contestants. Kinsey was number one on when we were doing this draft. I made kind of like my I want to like draft list. Kinsey was the one that I wrote at the top and circled. It was like, I want to take Kinsey. I was like, I don't care what I got to do. It was the only person I wanted. And then there was like Venus, ? And then Hunter, ? Tevin, ? And so there's like a bunch on Orange Tribe, like there. And then like some others and Q, ? Banu, ? Or like I had like Banu/Q and like some of these other ones and, all that sort of, and Gem and, all these. But it was just like Kenzie was like right at the top. That was the one person I wanted to take. I loved her 60-second clip. I was just like, and it's one of those things that now there's just so many memes about it, especially because of Venus, like Venus's airtime, where Randon was just like, Parvati. But I just get so much Parvati from Kenzie. And it's not, I don't know if her gameplay is going to feel like Parvati. She calls herself Parvati, like in her video. So that could also be part of it. But the way she just has like her eyes like remind me of Parvati. And the way that she is like talking to Q on the tribe, like she talks to him and like touches his arm and like laughs and moves side to side. It reminds me just so much of the way Parvati would talk to the guys and just really she was so good at talking to everyone. And then the way Kinsey also, she became really close to every single person on the tribe. And she worked herself in close with Tiff, who got the idol. And she knows that Tiffany has the idol. She knows everything. She is in with everyone. Like, I don't know. She is so just locked in on that tribe. But that also makes her, I think she's like just so the biggest threat out of everyone there. I have a feeling that she's going to get to the merge and be booted out right away. She gives me that vibe. I think she's just going to be like a quick, like a Caleb. I think she's the Caleb, get her out quick. But that's where a lot of people are comparing Yanu to Lulu. So if Yanu is Lulu, then Kenzie's Caleb. In my opinion, but I think that she's gonna be a whole lot of fun to watch, and so I'm happy that my first impression of her was right, because she was a blast to watch in this first episode. So yeah, I love Kinsey as a castaway so far in this season.
Yeah. So moving on to, do you have anything else to say about the Yanu tribe?
No, I don't think so. I think we'll end up learning more and talking about, I mean, obviously there's Q and Banu and Tiffany, and they're great, but I think that we're going to be able to talk a lot more about them in future episodes, so we'll come back to them later. I think for now, let's just kind of hit the highlights of the others.
So when moving on to, we can talk about the Siga tribe, the powerhouse. My favorite thing to come out of this episode pertaining to the Siga tribe was the pairing of Hunter and Tevin. They are both on my...
So are you wanting to talk about Siga?
Sorry,
or Nami?
Nami.
Okay.
Yeah, Nami. I meant to say Nami. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
My favorite thing to come out of the things that we saw from the Nami tribe was the pairing of Hunter and Tevin.
Mm-hmm.
They are both on my team.
Yes.
So I'm very happy that they're getting along and they're not at odds.
Yeah.
But I don't know why, but for some reason I just felt that they would get along, because they seem like such different people, but in a really good way. And I think it's also cool because Hunter is on, it seems like, a very energetic tribe, where people have like a lot of energy and they're super spunky and things like that. Well, and that's just like, not him.
Them doing the camp counselor
campfire songs,
chants and stuff, and he's just like there and not vibing with it at all, and he's just trying to get work done, and you just see him standing there kind of just trying to he's just kind of in the corner hiding.
But what I really like about Hunter so far is he seems like the kind of person who, because when you don't vibe with your tribe, it's an instant recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
But he seems like the kind of person that he isn't necessarily super energetic, but the people on his tribe aren't going to not vibe with him because of that. It seems like the kind of dynamic where he's like, I'm really happy that y'all are enjoying this and this is y'all's thing, but like, that's really just not me. I'm going to be over here. Like, I'll be happy with y'all, but I'm not like going to be jumping and squealing and stuff. But he just seems like a really like kind person that they are still going to like really vibe with him. So I think I really like Hunter's position within the tribe, and I really like the Andy Griffith alliance. So I'm excited to see where that goes moving forward.
I agree,
but
they're a lot of fun.
We need to,
yeah, they're so much fun. I love the both of them, and Tevin just seems like absolutely he's going to be a blast this season. He had 7 confessionals this first episode. I don't think he's going to win because he has so many confessionals this first episode. But he was a lot of fun, a great character, and I want as much screen time from him as I can get all season.
And had an absolutely fire opening monologue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they gave him the opening monologue of the season. Now here's the thing as well. Tevin's an actor. I need him in every movie ever, please, going forward. Tevin, please just go in all the movies. Thank you. Like, Tevin... Tevin's an actor. Why is he not in White Lotus Season 3? Mike White, please explain.
Yeah, Mike White, what are you doing? Mike White, you have an actor and a Survivor player. Like, what are you doing?
You put Survivor players in your show as cameos. This is your thing. Give him a leading role. We should see if we can get Mike White on the show. I'll DM him. We'll see if we can make it work. On the rest of the Nami tribe, so the 2 of them are great. We're going to talk about them a lot this season. I think we can move on for now. So Venus, love Venus. We're going to talk about Venus more. Love Venus. I don't think she's Parvati 2.0. I just think she's like awesome.
Mm-mm.
I think Randon is just whatever. I don't know. He wasn't the first boot like his daughter thought he would be. What I don't love is that Randon and Soda are beefing, and they're both on my team. So that's not wonderful. Don't love that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's not good. Oh, and that, well, not really Randon and Soda, but yeah, Randon and Soda and Randon and Venus. Randon's just beefing with everyone. So I think Randon is probably maybe the first boot from there, but also Liz. And Liz is an interesting one that we can have a conversation about very briefly because I want to keep on moving through these. But Liz, there's an interesting moment this episode where they're all washing the mud off and they're talking about what they do. And then she mentions, she's like, oh, I'm business owner. And that's an interesting thing to bring up in Survivor. And so my expectation is that she's going to, say she's, like a small business owner, or like she owns like a food truck, or she owns like a barbershop, or, usually it's like, it's something like a success story sort of thing. You usually don't say something like that you are super successful. That's usually not something that you just tell people, because that gives them a reason to be. You don't want to give someone a reason to feel okay voting you out, because if they don't feel guilty voting you out, then why would they just not vote you? At the beginning, it makes it easier to vote you out. They don't feel guilty. And so she's like, oh yeah, I own 4 companies. Well, actually, I own 2. I've sold 2. And Tevin in his confessional is just like, well, I'm here for money. And
well, it's also the fact that after she goes, yeah, I had 4 companies, sold 2, owned 2, and then she was like, I'm pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, everyone was like, kind of side-eyed her. If I was there, that would have given me the ick right away. I would have been like, yeah, I'm sorry, girl, you're You're on my list.
It was super weird because also like after that moment, she was like pretty invisible from the edit. The rest
she was
of
like
the episode.
invisible.
And I just did not see her at all. And to be fair, the other, like, those tribes were pretty invisible the rest of the edit. They kind of just were just focusing on Jelinsky, like, the whole edit. And that's how we kind of knew, like, Jelinsky's going to be going home. So, like, Jelinsky or Jess, they kind of were just on those two for a while. So, yeah, that was a very bizarre thing. So I think if Nami ends up going to Tribal at any point in the next few episodes, it's going to be Liz or Randon is kind of where I'm thinking it's going to end up being, which is, I guess that makes it interesting because those are our one for each of us. But yeah, it was a very weird moment where I don't know if she just wasn't thinking or if that's just how, I don't know. I don't know if that's just who she is, if that wasn't clear. I don't know. But yeah, it was a very sort of kind of cocky-ish kind of statement that came across. It came across very, I'm better than you kind of thing. And I don't know if she intended it that way or not, but it came across, especially in the edit, came off that way. And the way they show everyone is everybody's just giving, like you said, giving the side eye, very confused at that statement. It was like, all right, well, we're here because we need money, and that's going to give everyone some peace of mind to send her home if they need to. So that's something to look out for in some upcoming episodes. But I also don't think Nami is going to Tribal Council anytime soon. So there's also that. The last tribe we have to look at here really quickly is Siga. There's not a whole lot, I think, to talk about Siga, other than the women are in cahoots, and they pulled in Charlie, the Swiftie. And Tim knows women.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Because he has
a mom and a grandma.
Yep.
Because those are the only two kinds of women that exist in the world.
Well, and if you remember, he's dating his wife. So he knows women, man. He knows women, bro. So he knows that they're in cahoots and they're doing devious things. And yeah, the Siga tribe didn't get a whole lot of screen time. I don't know what thoughts you have about that tribe and what they've got going on over there, about the players on the Siga tribe.
Yeah, we really didn't get a lot from them. I think the thing that shocked me the most was Charlie seeming to do all right. He doesn't seem to be on the outskirts. My only concern would be if the Women's Alliance sticks together and they bring in Charlie, will he be able to survive long enough to make it to the merge? Because if it's four of them, the three women and Charlie's gone. So I'm just very interested to see if the Women's Alliance sticks together. It's also very interesting now because Maria has the extra vote, which we can talk about a little later as a result of the little journey that they went on. But we just really didn't get a lot of Siga, so I'm interested to see what their vibe is going to be in the coming episodes. But yeah, I think my main takeaways are, will the Women's Alliance last? And what is going to go on with Charlie?
Yeah, Siga, we didn't see a lot of Mariah. Don't have much in the way of thoughts on Mariah. Liked Jem, didn't see a whole lot of her, but I liked what we saw of her. Maria, we saw quite a decent bit because she got to go on the journey, and I liked what we saw of her. Charlie, I actually really liked Charlie in this episode, a lot more than I thought I would from the 60-second preview. So that was he was one of those players that surprised me, because going into it, he was one of those ones that we were very, I'm not going to say we were mean, but we weren't the most kind.
No.
And we said that straight up, he seemed like he could have been an abrasive personality coming onto the island, depending on how how he approached his tribe mates and what he talked about, regarding his background. And he is choosing to omit a lot of his background, which is smart. And I figured he would do that. And he just doesn't come across the way that they framed him in that little 60-second teaser, which means that it was just kind of the way it was edited and the way it came across. So I think that he seems a lot nicer, seems very cool and kind. So I liked him a lot more in this. He seemed very nice. The only concern is that obviously he's in an alliance. He is in the All Girls Alliance, which is great, in the Women's Alliance. And so he's going to be able to make it through 2 votes, but he won't make it beyond that probably. And even if he decided to go against them and team up with Ben and Tim, Maria has an extra vote. And so that puts them in quite the predicament unless the men can find an idol in the next episode or 2, which is their only hope. So that is going to actually transition us over kind of nicely into the journey and how Maria got that extra vote. So there was a journey this episode, like there is in this new era, the little journey. And this journey, it's a new task, unless it's one that you've seen in one of the early ones, because I haven't seen all of them.
No, it's completely new.
Okay, cool. I thought it was new. So basically, there are 3 cards. There's a skull. What was it? A treasure map? Was that what it was?
No, it was like a pen and paper.
Pen and paper, and then a rose. Was that what it was? Or a torch? Yeah, torch. Yeah, a torch, pen and paper,
Statue of Liberty,
and a skull. Yeah, and so yes, I remember. Yeah, she did that. And so basically, if you drew the torch, then you had to guess who had the pen and paper. And if you guessed correctly who had the pen and paper, then both you and the person with the pen and paper got an extra vote. But if you incorrectly guessed and guessed the person who had the skull, then the person who had the skull would get an extra vote, and you and the other person would both lose your vote. So either 2 people gain a vote and 1 loses, or 2 people lose and 1 gains. It's like a lose-lose-win or win-win-lose situation. And the 3 people that went on this journey were Maria from Siga, Tevin from Nami, and Jelinsky, of course, from Yanu. It was the second time this episode that Jelinsky volunteered immediately to go on something and didn't let anybody else even have a shot. He just straight up was like, I'm going, and just went. It was kind of insane. There was no drawing sticks or nothing. He was just like, I want to go. I'm going. And everybody was just like, cool. And just let him go. Do you want to break down what happened on this little trip? Because it was quite the adventure. If you want to break that down real quickly.
Yeah. So they go, Tevin shuffles, they go and the rules are explained and they have the 3 cards and Tevin shuffles the cards, which I thought was interesting that Tevin just shuffled them right there in front of them, because you could probably keep track of which one was which if you looked hard enough. But anyways, I feel like there could have been a better way to shuffle it, or production should have shuffled it or something. But anyways, so Tevin shuffles it, Maria draws the torch, and then Tevin draws the pen and paper, and Jelinsky draws the skull. So Jelinsky has to lie and convince Maria that he has the pen and paper, and then Tevin has to convince Maria that he's telling the truth, and he actually does have the pen and paper. So it starts off, they give their little opening remarks. Tevin is honestly really convincing. Granted, he's already telling the truth, so it's pretty convincing to begin with. And then Jelinsky goes, and I'm like, man, this guy's a terrible liar. This guy can lie. And so Maria suspects that he's lying, and she kind of calls him out on it. And she's like, okay, I'm going to give you both another chance to tell the truth. And then Jelinsky just goes, yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I have the skull. Pick him because he has it, and y'all can both get an extra vote. And everyone I think watching has the same reaction of bruh, are you dumb? You don't do that. Granted, I don't think that this journey is really fair. It doesn't seem like a fair challenge. For one, it's never fair when you're subjected to losing your vote for just no reason.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this time and time again, and we'll continue talking about it time and time again until production stops. Like, losing your vote for no reason is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but this just felt like whoever got the skull got a lose-lose situation, even if they did win. Because either one, they figure out you're lying and you lose your vote, which sucks. Or two, you win, you successfully convince them and they pick you and you're lying and you win a vote, and then you out yourself as a good liar, which is never a good thing.
To 2 whole tribes. Not just to 2 people. To the entire game. Like, to your whole tribe and, like, to everyone in the game. Like, that's the thing where, like, I think that, like, everything would have changed if Tevin drew the skull. I just think if Tevin drew the skull and lied successfully, because he's an actor, totally different ball game. If Maria picks him and then her story and she goes back and she's like, he literally, I couldn't tell. He lied.
Yeah.
And it was as if he was speaking like I was speaking to any other person. No one's going to ever trust him again. Ever, when they get to the merge. His game at the merge is over if people remember it. And that's another part of it, is like, if people remember it. And so you've got to bank on if she makes it to the end, if she makes it to the merge. So if she doesn't make it to the merge, and then if no one really remembers it, then maybe it's okay. But that's a lot of ifs. So I agree. I think that is like, it is a really tough situation for Jelinsky. But you also, I don't think you can you don't quit. Just be a bad liar. I think that's, okay, you lost. Cool. It's a luck of the draw thing. Unfortunately, you have a 1 in 3 shot of losing your vote. That's the way I look at it. You drew the skull. Sucks. Sit there and lose your vote. Don't give up. It's better for her to go back and say that he lied than for her to go back and say he's a really freaking good liar and he tricked me. You know? Like, of course he lied. That's the game. That's what they said to do. You know? Like, no one gives a crap about that. It would have been totally different if she picked him. So it's a lose-lose situation, but him giving up was way, way bad decision, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think the best decision would have been, if you're a bad liar, just stick to being a bad liar. It sucks you lose your vote, and then you go back to your tribe and you tell them what happened. But you don't go back to your tribe and do what Jelinsky did and say, yeah, I didn't want to be a liar. I didn't want to be dishonest. So I didn't want to out myself as a liar to the other 2 tribes. So I just gave up. And then they're like, so you gave the other tribes an extra vote? And he's like, yeah, but they'll, like, when we merge, they'll want to be our allies because, like, I helped them. And bro, they have no commitment to you right now whatsoever. You are
I don't
thinking
understand.
about
He's just
a game that is not being played. In Survivor, you think about the here and the now. And so, yeah, it was just all around not great game making decisions, and it's pretty, like, when you've made that many bad decisions in this very short span of game, it's pretty easy to see why you get voted off first.
Yeah. It seemed like he was just not thinking the whole time. He was overthinking. You could also maybe make that argument. He's either not thinking at all, or he's trying to absolutely big brain the heck out of all of it, and he's trying way too hard. But I'm not even going to make that argument, because at this point in the game, he has now quit twice. So now the state of the game, 2 extra votes in the game. Jelinsky has lost a vote. So we are officially an hour and a half into the show. 2 people have extra votes. 1 person has lost a vote. Also, at this point, Tiffany has probably found her idol, or she's close to finding her idol. So there's also an advantage in the game. That's the state of the new era of Survivor. We've talked about that. Maybe we'll do an episode on that too. So that's how crazy things have gotten now. So 2 extra votes, 1 lost vote, an advantage. All these things have happened in the very first episode. We get to the immunity challenge. Nami just freaking dominates, mops the floor, leaves carcasses freaking everywhere. Just, yeah, blows past everyone. And then Siga is able to, come up and get second place. And then Yanu, loses and goes to tribal council, which is not unexpected considering we all know Jelinsky goes home. But what is really interesting is that leading up to tribal council, it seems like Jess is going to be the vote. And so we're only going to take a couple minutes here left at the end. I only want to take just like a couple more minutes, and then we're going to kind of cap this recap. We don't want to go too long on the recap because then it's just the whole episode of Survivor. So we're going to kind of just talk about this very last bit of the episode. But it seemed like for a minute they were going to just scapegoat Jess and not vote Jelinsky. Did you think that they were going to vote Jess? Or did you think it was going to go Jelinsky? Was there ever a point where you were actually thinking it was going to go Jess? Or were you thinking Jelinsky? It was kind of fun because they both start with J. Production was able to do the like little, you're able to show the J. Production loves when the vote
mouth with that one.
When the votes start with the first letter J. Oh man, we can show J. Oh, love it.
Mm-hmm. They were chomping at the bit with that one.
Yep.
But I think I thought that it could have been Jess whenever they were discussing on the beach, and then because it seemed like Kenzie was very gung ho on Jess.
Mm-hmm.
And Banu seemed pretty gung-ho on Jess. And then I think Q flipped him based on his discussion of Jelinsky being a quitter and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't help that Jelinsky didn't have a vote to begin with. So, but yeah, I think once they went to Tribal and the discussions at Tribal started happening, that was when I was pretty confident that Jelinsky was going to be the one going home.
Yeah, Tribal definitely swayed the vote towards Jelinsky. I think before Tribal, it had already swung towards Jelinsky, and then if there was anyone on the edge, it completely moved towards Jelinsky. But I couldn't help but think the whole time Tribal was happening that if Jess just wouldn't talk so much, that it was just Jelinsky going home, because he just kept digging himself a deeper and deeper and deeper hole. And then every now and then Jess would just say something and the brain fog would kick in, and then Q would just like have a reaction on his face where it would almost look like he was second guessing himself wanting to vote out Jelinsky. And he was the one who wanted Jelinsky to go home the most. And so I was always just a little worried that he might start like a live Tribal and he might go whisper to someone and be like, hey, she's like not doing well. Should we vote for her? And I was like always a little on edge that maybe something like the vote might change, but I always thought it was going to be Jelinsky, but she was very out of it. And so I'm interested to see how that carries over into the next episode, because she was struggling in this Tribal a lot. And so it is really tough to see, and it's very shocking only being a few days in out there. And so I don't know how she's going to fare. Like, I'm going to be honest, I don't see her making it 27 days. Like right now, the way it is. Something's going to have to change if she's going to make it that far. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Don't know what's going to happen with the Yanu tribe in general. They're going to have to turn their ship around. And so we're going to be able to kind of see what happens with that next week, another 2-hour episode. And then we're going to recap that. Hopefully the recap episode for that one comes out a little bit sooner. After the episode, we had to watch Dune Part 2 after the first episode dropped for this one, so we weren't able to record as quickly, so this one didn't come out. Do you have any other closing thoughts before our time runs out on this one, Jacob?
Nothing other than the first episode was really enjoyable. If for some reason you listened to this podcast episode and you haven't watched the first episode, go watch it because it was good. And yeah, I'm really excited for this season. The cast seems really fun. There's not anyone that sticks out to me that I'm just like, man, I'm really not looking forward to watching them on my screen for the next 3 months. There are some people that I just don't necessarily care for, but not anyone that just sticks out to me as an unlikable person. So for that fact, I'm really happy and excited for this season, and I think it's going to be really enjoyable.
Cool. Yeah, me too. I think it's going to be great. I'm excited, and I hope that everyone listening is also excited for season 46. I think it was a great first episode. Let us know your thoughts on this first episode of season 46. Let us know who your current favorites are and who you think is going to win season 46 of Survivor, and what you thought of Jelinsky. Did he deserve to be the first person voted out? I assume you think he deserved to be the first one voted out, but if you don't, I'm interested to know why. You can let us know on social media. You can find us on Instagram at Idle Talk Podcast or on TikTok at Idle Talk Podcast. I think that's all we've got for now. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.